and welcome to Wrestling at Random. I'm Jeremy Deemer.
And I am Adam Summers, and you are here in Season 6 of Wrestling at Random, where the theme is more wrestling than ever, somehow even more wrestling than Season 5 dumped into the randomizer here in Season 6, upwards of 60,000 hours of professional wrestling. And I believe, Jeremy, this is the first time that the randomizer has taken us to this territory. We visited it over on the bonus feed, or one of our patrons chose an episode of Southwest Championship Wrestling for us to watch. But here on the free feed, it's our first time. This is Southwest Championship Wrestling, we believe, from sometime in June of 1983. It is available on YouTube. There is no date or timestamp, but that is our sleuthing, us listening closely to the commentators, tells us it is most likely June of 1983.
The last time, the only time we visited this territory, like you mentioned, was over on our bonus content episode number 84. Patreon.com/wrestling at random. Over 200 extra episodes that you haven't heard are over on the bonus feed. One of those was Southwest Championship Wrestling. We will start this podcast with a little bit of the history that I went through of this show, because this episode we're going to watch aired on the USA Network, so we'll talk a little bit about Southwest Championship Wrestling on the USA Network before the WWF was on the USA Network at the infancy of cable television. And we'll if you want to check this out, like you mentioned, the actual episode of television was found on YouTube. It was found by the randomizer. We fire it up. It can choose anything in the 60,000 hours that you mentioned for us to choose from, for us to watch. And glad it picked the territory we haven't been to. That's kind of been the theme this season. We've gotten a lot of corners of the wrestling world here as we've pumped a ton of data into the randomizer. Southwest Championship Wrestling, this is Joe Blanchard's territory out of the San Antonio area of Texas. And as Southwest Championship Wrestling, interesting to note, not a part of the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance at this time. We saw a lot of affiliations and a lot of references to the world champion being the champion of the AWA, because there was a partnership between Joe Blanchard and Vern Gagne, the AWA.
And didn't that episode of Southwest Championship Wrestling, that one, which was from the USA Network that we reviewed over on the bonus feed, I believe that opened with a Nick Bockwinkel match, with Nick Bockwinkel as the AWA World Champion.
Sure did. And we also did a curated list of Nick Bockwinkel from Southwest Championship Wrestling and other matches he did as well over in the bonus feed. But here on the free feed, let's hear a little bit about Southwest Championship Wrestling on the USA Network. Starting on December 5th, earlier this same month, 1982, Southwest Championship Wrestling became the first weekly wrestling program on the USA Cable Network. It aired Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern. Joe Blanchard, father of wrestler Tully Blanchard, he was the promoter of Southwest Championship Wrestling, and he paid the USA Network for an early morning time slot. National Cable Television Wrestling had started in 1976 when Ted Turner created the Superstation and got cable systems around the country to air his WTCG, the famed Channel 17 in Atlanta. And by sheer coincidence, one of the staples and actually the highest nationally rated show on the station in its early days was Georgia Championship Wrestling. By 1981, it was available in 30 million homes.
Wow.
And the Saturday show did an average of 6.4 rating, and the Sunday show did a 6.6 rating. Wrestling was the first cable show to hit 1 million homes nationally on a regular basis. And again, you had Blanchard. He saw cable as the future, with the idea that with a national outlet, he could expand his promotion into new markets. But he didn't have the quality of show or the talent to pull that off. And the cost of the time slot put him deeply in red ink, ultimately led to his company closing down. After a controversial angle where the USA Network didn't want his product on the air, because of a particularly bloody match between Tully Blanchard and Bruiser Bob Sweetan. He was also behind in paying for the time slot. The show was ultimately canceled. But USA was getting such strong ratings in the time slot that Vince McMahon, who had a relationship previously with the USA Network because they were airing MSG shows, he took the paying for the time slot deal that Blanchard had and created a show called WWF All American Wrestling. In 1985, in April of 85, the promotion, Southwest Championship Wrestling, was sold to Texas All-Star Wrestling. This show opens with Steve Stack welcoming us to the broadcast.
Yeah, Steve Stack is our host and our play-by-play guy here. We get the Southwest Championship Wrestling Open with lots of slow-mo shots because, as most early to mid-'80s wrestling shows, they had just discovered the ability to do slow motion. So we get that all over the show for no apparent reason.
Good theme song. Solid theme song, by the way.
Yeah, the theme song felt like a good wrestling theme open. Like this, it got me hyped. It made me feel like I was watching wrestling in the 1980s. Steve Stack tells us all the wrestlers who we will see on the show. And then Al Perez joins Steve Stack. I did not know this was Al Perez. He is young. He looked much more like Nikita Koloff with short hair than Al Perez with short hair. I did not know where the mullet was. He cannot talk. He has nothing to say. He desperately needs Gary Hart to time travel from several years in the future when he was his manager to talk for him here. On the other side of Steve Stack is Tiger Conway, who also has nothing to say.
This Al Perez, I didn't think Al Perez could lose more charisma, but his mullet alone generated so much charisma, I had no idea.
It was doing a lot of work. Yet you did not realize the physical charisma that Al Perez had until you saw him without a mullet. He's still, again, he is somehow less charismatic on the microphone than he would be years later. We go to the ring.
Just 4 short years away from being the champion of world class in its dying days.
Yeah,
unbelievable. That's only 4 years. Like,
my ultimate reference point always for a dying promotion, putting a lower mid-carder as a champion, telling you exactly where they are as a company. We go to the ring, and it is a guy doing ring announcing here on the show who we have actually stealthily seen quite a few times for a guy that people don't necessarily think about or remember that much. It is Rick Stewart holding the world's weirdest, tiniest microphone, doing ring announcing. We've seen Rick Stewart, obviously, on the previous episode of Southwest Championship Wrestling that we did in the bonus feed. He also was on Central States Wrestling and whatever that weird, attempted revival of Central States, I believe, that we did on the bonus feed from Kansas City. He was also on that. And then I had forgotten about this, so I looked Rick Stewart up. Rick Stewart was on commentary with Tony Schiavone for the Omni portion of Starrcade 1986, that split venue show. And Rick Stewart did a lot of announcing for Jim Crockett Promotions in 86 and 87. And like, you look him up, he was actually quite the heralded play-by-play guy. But here he is a ring announcer, and then he will join Steve Stack for color commentary.
As soon as you mentioned he was with Tony Schiavone at Starrcade 86, I immediately remembered his voice and remembered saying, who is this guy?
Well, I remembered. So it's funny. I didn't remember it until I looked it up. And then I remembered not remembering who he was when we did Starrcade 86, which was so weird because I have such a vivid memory of that era of the NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions. But for whatever reason, I had no recollection of Rick Stewart, which is surprising because he has a great announcer's voice, like a top tier announcer voice.
And my notes also say world's tiniest microphone. What is this? He's this little tiny, it's like one of those lapel mics that you clip on, but smaller, and he's holding it up to do ring announcing. It's completely absurd. It's the exact opposite of Howard Finkel with the giant microphone platter that comes down from Madison Square Garden.
I'm going to date myself here more than I usually do and say this is the Honey I Shrunk the Kids microphone.
Yes, so this world's tiniest microphone, a fashion corner on the arena. It looks like we're in some kind of a hotel ballroom almost.
It also kind of gave me Portland vibes with how low the ceiling was. Portland vibes or Hakata Star Lanes in Japan, which you've actually done a UWF show in recent months that was from Hakata Star Lanes, the now torn down bowling alley converted into a wrestling arena in Japan. But yeah, it's somewhere between like Portland TV and Ring of Honor in New York City in mid 2000s as far as the look of this place. It's like it's not quite a studio, it's not quite an arena.
We go to the ring for our opening match. The Ninja Warrior taking on Tiger Conway Jr. The Ninja Warrior is Shinya Koshika, is what my notes say.
I was like, is this American Ninja Warrior? Is this the original Ninja Warrior television show? What's going on here? He's every great Kabuki ripoff that every small territory had.
Basic opener. Conway at one point tries a flying head scissors that gets blocked by Ninja, or maybe botched turned into a block.
He's going for the he goes for the Ricky Steamboat style flying head scissors. Gets thrown off. We hear about judo chops from Rick Stewart,
which are just normal. Also, they're just normal chops to the chest that are referred to as immediately identified as judo chops.
I would say if I had to pick a favorite thing in modern wrestling as we record this, it is Don Callis bringing back saying judo chops every time he's on commentary, and it making Kaz extremely, extremely angry. Also, as great of a voice as Rick Stewart has, he gets off to a shaky start here as he says multiple times Conway Tiger Jr. instead of Tiger Conway Jr.
Usual opening match heel antics, pulling hair to get him into holds, headlocks, chin locks. Tiger ducks. Ninja runs and falls through the ropes to the floor. Back inside Tiger, Conway in control, hits a flying headbutt off the middle rope, and Conway Jr. hits him with that headbutt to get the pin.
Ninja Warrior kicks out at 3.00001, as you often see in this era of professional wrestling. We also hear on commentary, they sort of run down the loop during this match, and they say that Southwest Championship Wrestling will be coming to the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. What? Scott
Casey is interviewed by Steve, and they talk about a match
He's visually indistinguishable from Al Perez earlier, other than the fact that he has a cowboy hat. He looks
so generic,
exactly the same facially and physically to Al Perez.
They talk about a match in San Antonio where it was Larry Zbyszko taking on Stan Hansen. And Casey ended up getting involved to help Hansen because Zbyszko was using brass knuckles. And then after they tell us about this match, we join the match in progress. And we join the match in progress to watch the world's longest chin lock.
It is a long chin lock. This footage is from the Hemisphere Arena in San Antonio, which is apparently where all their big shows took place. We have Steve Stack doing like post-production commentary, and it's that 80s territory thing where they take you to the arena, but they're not trying to act like this is happening live. The commentator isn't trying to act like they were there live. He's like doing a recap over the video as it's taking place. This is a San Jose Sharks level far away hard cam here. There's just one camera. Stan Hansen in 1983 looks exactly the same as he would look in 1993 or 2001. He's just Stan Hansen. It's so weird to see him as a babyface selling for Larry Zbyszko. It's just it's kind of an odd deal.
No, and then here we go, though. Hansen kills Zbyszko with a running atomic drop.
Yes, a running atomic drop.
It's a big knee drop. Zbyszko gets punched and falls into the referee. Zbyszko takes the knuckles out of his tights, punches Hansen with it. Hansen's knocked out, and Scott Casey hits the ring. He takes the object from Zbyszko, and they announce Zbyszko as the winner by disqualification due to Scott Casey's interference.
Yeah, so then we go back to Scott Casey now. He is still with Steve Stack. He says he will be in the Omni tonight. He has no idea who he will be wrestling. We hear that Scott Casey wrestled Tully Blanchard at the Hemisphere Arena and pinned him in a non-title match. Says that after the match, Larry Zbyszko came out, and Larry Zbyszko beat up Scott Casey with the help of Tully Blanchard. And then Scott Casey, it's kind of like a sarcastic, annoyed babyface thing. He says, maybe now the fans will finally get behind him. I don't think he went into this trying to sound sarcastic, but I think he realized, like, as he was saying it, this was just going to make him sound really whiny. This was strange. The only other note I have about this whole thing is that apparently Tully was managed by someone named Christopher Love during this time period.
We will hear from Christopher Love before this show is over. Tully's the Southwest champion at this point, and so champion of the territory. We join Scott Casey versus Tully Blanchard in progress. So this is now twice where we've been told what we're going to see, and then we actually get to see it. The referee's Lou Thez, of all people, in this Tully Blanchard-Scott Casey match. Tully dumps Casey outside, where Zbyszko gets a shot in, throws Casey back inside, double underhooks, and Tully hits a butterfly suplex for a 2 count.
Love how Tully is stalking him like boxing style. Casey is staggering around the ring, and Tully's stalking him, throwing some body shots, and like you said, that double arm suplex. We get a knee drop. Tully dropping more knees, pulling the hair. Lou Thez does not like the hair pulling here.
Blanchard throws Casey outside again. Zbyszko throws him right back in. Blanchard goes for the suplex, probably his slingshot suplex finisher here, but Casey reverses it into a backslide and gets the pin. After the pin, all hell breaks loose as we head to a commercial.
A pin. Again, this is a non-title match, so Scott Casey is not the champion, but he does get the pin. Like the video, the quality of the footage here is not great. The angle is not great, but I do appreciate them actually showing us, even if it's after the fact footage from the big arena shows. There's one of the biggest frustrations I feel like on some of these territory shows. It's like, especially if you're watching in like weekly and you're like, oh, okay, we're building to this match, and then you get to the week after the big show happened and they just don't talk about it, and they're just on to the next thing. So I appreciate here that if you're a weekly viewer, you actually did get some sort of payoff to what they were doing in the previous weeks.
No, and what better way to sell coming to the arena than showing the arena show? Show a little bit of it. No, not showing any of the arena show is a very Bill Wirtz way to get you to come out to see it.
You could almost call it
Blackhawks honor.
You could almost call it a Danny Wirtz way of doing things.
Bobby Jaggers with a promo on Bob Sweetan. He's got Luke from the Sheepherders with him during this promo.
Yeah, so this is Bobby Jaggers, who we've seen a few times. I feel like mostly on the bonus feed, maybe in the last 6 months or 9 months. He's one of the many guys that had a somewhat similar look and physique to Dusty Rhodes that would sometimes try to do Dusty Rhodes things and it wouldn't work. Here he is a heel, which is, I feel like, a better spot for him than we've seen before. But yes, it is Bobby Jaggers with the future Bushwhacker Luke, Sheepherder Luke Williams, and somewhere off camera, the Turk Ali Bey, who we've also seen way too much of in recent months.
Yes, we are becoming a stealth Ali Bey podcast. He shows up all the time. We go to the ring for 6-man tag team action as it's the Turk Ali Bey teaming with the Southwest Tag Team Champions Bobby Jaggers and Sheepherder Luke Williams, taking on the team of Eric Embry, Sweet Brown Sugar, and Bob Sweetan.
Eric Embry, this always throws me off when we see young, baby face, like not jacked or in great shape or anything, but like fiery, athletic, like poor man's Tommy Rich Eric Embry, because my first recollection of him as a kid was sleazy heel Eric Embry in the USWA. I think we saw him in like an early 80s All Japan show that we reviewed. He was on one of those. He's been on a few of these. He may have even been like the other Southwest or Central
He
State
showed up
show.
in World Class for us too.
That's World Class when he was still a young baby face. It never sits right with me.
Jaggers and Luke salute the New Zealand flag before the start of the match.
Yeah, we should mention in the promo, Bobby Jaggers was wearing a shirt with the New Zealand flag on it, and the idea was that he was a traitor to America. It's one of the funniest things about this era of wrestling. Yes, you had like Russia, and they were they were our actual adversary, but like when you have like, who hated New Zealand in 1983? So or like when, I think of even with like the Bret Hart Canada versus the US stuff, like the idea of Canada being the heel, like it's just, I don't know, like I'm supposed to hate New Zealand? Why? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's so weird. Every territory had a Russian heel, every territory had a Middle Eastern heel, and
most territories had an American who was a turncoat, and that's what we have here.
We have a turncoat, but a turncoat to New Zealand and the sheep herders.
It's somehow like this actually generated incredible heat here.
Someone brought a sign about it. Someone brought
like
a sign.
A long sign. It was like there were big American flags. This stoked the patriotic embers. I don't quite understand it, but that's the deal here. As this match is getting started, I first note, I always forget how short and old looking Ali Bey is. We've seen him so many times now. He's barefoot, he's short, he's got the one strap singlet. And then as this match is getting underway, the commentators tell us that the 4th of July Hemisphere Arena big show will be a TV taping. They will be taping TV at the arena.
Embry's getting triple teamed in the corner. Embry fights out of the corner. After a reset, Sweet Brown Sugar won't let them back him into the corner. He gets Bay into his corner and tags in Sweet Tan. Sweet Tan attacks all three guys until he's eventually overwhelmed. Sweet Tan makes the tag to Embry, but sheep herder Luke cuts him off. Jaggers goes to work on Embry. Even Ali Bey gets in on the offense here. A swinging neck breaker from Ali Bey.
You're leaving out the awesome, fiery young babyface drop kick by Eric Embry at the start of this match after Bobby Jaggers missed a clothesline. It's just such a strange sentence to say. But yes, a nice swing neck breaker. It was more like shake, rattle, and roll style here by Ali Bey. And then like a minute later, Bobby Jaggers hits more of like a Bobby Eaton style swinging neck breaker.
Luke is in and he hits like a jumping back elbow for a 2 count.
A great flying back elbow. This also is a long heat segment here on Eric Embry. They just beat him and beat him and beat him down some more. We got a slam by Ali Bey. This like weird stutter step running stomp by Ali Bey that like it's not even the float stomp or the pump stomp, whatever you want to call it, Paul Orndorff style. Ali Bey is just such a weird wrestler.
Jaggers hits a neck breaker. Sweet Tan makes the save. Embry with a shot to Luke, kicks him off, and makes the hot tag to Brown Sugar. He runs wild. All 6 men are in the ring as it breaks down. Embry during this gets thrown over the top rope, and we have a disqualification.
It's a double disqualification, apparently. I don't know why both teams are DQ'd, but yes. Bob Sweetan, and I don't want to offend Mike Sempervive when I say this, because I think maybe he's a Sweetan guy. He certainly has written a lot about him, talked about him on the Mid-Atlantic Pod, but like Bob Sweetan is the most second-tier territory guy ever. Like he's not bad. Like he's a totally fine professional wrestler.
Totally fine.
He's another guy who it's like he's on the babyface side here, and that just feels weird to me. But he's just like when you see him, there is either actual Bob Sweetan or a guy like Bob Sweetan in every Southwest or Central States or Continental. Like he's everywhere, or a guy like him is everywhere.
We go to our next match. Coco Samoa taking on the Masked Mauler. I was unable to identify who this man was.
This feels like late stage Continental more than 1983 yes. Southwest. Coco Samoa, we saw him again. Maybe it was on that Southwest show or something else. We often talk about Kirkland's versions of wrestlers. Coco Samoa is the most Kirkland's version of Jimmy Superfly Snuka
that is exactly correct.
Ever seen in your life. The Masked Mauler is just a generic large fat guy with a mask. My favorite, well, there's two things about this match that have nothing to do with the match that are my favorite thing about this. Roswell, New Mexico is in the loop. So I don't know if there's a wrestling show in 1947 in Roswell, but there certainly is here in 1983. And then we are told in painstaking detail about the fan appreciation weekend for Southwest Championship Wrestling that will be taking place not at the studio, not at Hemisphere Arena, not at the offices of Southwest Championship Wrestling, but at Scott Casey's ranch.
I looked up, according to Wikipedia, Coco Samoa actually did wrestle as the brother of Jimmy Snuka, the work brother of Jimmy Snuka, Jack Snuka.
He should have been Lance Snuka.
Yes, he was not actually his brother, but was actually good friends with Jimmy Snuka. Also, it says that he estimated that he fathered 11 children with 9 different women. Coco Samoa.
I feel like anytime you're estimating how many children
the number
you
of
have,
children, yeah,
you have led quite the life.
So here he's taking on the Masked Mauler, who is terrible. Like Continental 89 jobbers are offended at this Masked Mauler.
He's borderline untrained. This is just, it's not good all around. Why is Coco Samoa the babyface doing the headlock throat thrust behind the referee's back? Why is that happening? The finish comes where Mauler whips Samoa into the corner. Samoa goes to jump to the second rope. You know, we often see guys do this. You jump to the second rope and spring back, with your back to your opponent, twist in the air and hit a crossbody. This is ostensibly what he's trying to do. He slips off the rope, hits an awkward headbutt, goes back up to the top and hits a crossbody. Also, we learn later in another segment that you cannot jump off the top rope in Southwest Championship Wrestling. It is illegal. It is an automatic disqualification. Bill Watts rules apply for some reason here. So our announcer, Steve Stack, is extremely concerned and confused that Coco Samoa was allowed to come off the top rope here. Obviously, this was because Samoa is supposed to hit this move as a counter crossbody off the second rope, slipped, hit the headbutt, panicked, and went to the top rope. They're not going to have Coco Samoa lose via self-induced disqualification to the Masked Mauler. So instead here, Steve Stack is left confused trying to explain this to us all. This was horrible and great.
Yes, all of a sudden this is a controversial finish with Coco Samoa and the Masked Mauler.
Yeah, if you went into this match thinking disputed finish, I want to know what else you've bet on.
Yeah, so funny. Tully's manager, Christopher Love, shows up. This man is ranting because Casey shouldn't have been able to pin Tully. He must have cheated by being too oiled up. This was not a good promo. I don't know who this Christopher Love is.
It's again, we talk about things that are in every territory in the 80s. This is their effeminate guy character. This is their WWF Adrian Adonis character here as a manager for Tully Blanchard. We don't see him on this show with Tully. But man, it's strange because Tully's a good promo. Tully's a star. Why he was saddled with this guy who felt like he felt like he was sort of on the level of like Izzy Slapowitz and guys like that we've seen on some of these lesser territories, these really bad managers. It's a strange act to have together.
So apparently this, according to ChatGPT.
Oh boy. Hold on. Let's put the largest asterisk possible that we can fit in the internet before you give us facts from ChatGPT.
It tells me that Christopher Love was the ring name of Burt Prentice.
That's Burt Prentice? Are you kidding me?
That's what a pro wrestling manager and promoter who began his career in the early 80s. In 83, Prentice joined Joe Blanchard's Southwest Championship Wrestling as a writer, but soon transitioned into an on-air manager role under the name Christopher Love.
Wow, I did not realize that. I mean, well, at least Tully Blanchard was managed by someone who would go on to like be in the industry for a while, as opposed to some of these other like one-off really bad managers we've seen in territories. Well, regardless, we come back from break. Steve Stack is now going to show us clips of, and I did not have this on my bingo card for what we're going to see here from the Southwest Territory. It is Tommy Rich versus Buzz Sawyer from the Hemisphere Arena in San Antonio, and we are seeing this footage because they're going to be having very soon a no disqualification match. And I'm immediately so confused because 1983, what I associate with Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer is the last Battle of Atlanta, which we reviewed here on this podcast in the bonus feed. But apparently this feud was also a big deal in San Antonio and in the Southwest Territory.
Yeah, and they ended up actually wrestling on that 4th of July show that they plugged. So they wrestled at the Hemisphere Arena in San Antonio on that 4th of July show as well. So they did a couple of matches here. They did this match to build up to that next 4th of July match. This match we join in progress. You'll be shocked to hear Tommy Rich is a bloody mess.
Immediately. And like, I'm expecting the way this is going and how bloody it is. I'm like, well, okay, this has got to be 15, 20 minutes into the match. We join and we see like 2 minutes of the match, and then we hear 5 minutes gone by. So Tommy Rich must have been busted open at some point during the first 3 minutes of this match. Also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's unbelievable. And if you haven't heard our review of Tommy Rich's Bloodiest Feuds videotape, that's in the bonus feed and a must listen as well.
Absolutely. That's an all-timer as far as commercial videotapes go. We should also note when Steve Stack is doing his like voiceover commentary for this and for the Tully Blanchard thing earlier, the Scott Casey thing, all that sort of stuff, he's using this very, very quiet golf announcer voice.
World of Sport-esque.
Yes, it makes me wonder whether, and I say this with a little bit of experience doing such a thing, it makes me wonder whether this was recorded in a hotel room. They recorded this commentary like in his hotel room before a show or something, and like it had to be really, really quiet. I go back to when I recorded one of the best of 2005 Japanese wrestling DVDs.
Also available in the bonus feed.
Yes, there is. You can hear it. You can actually hear some of that. Dave Prazak and I recorded that in a hotel room in Berwyn, Illinois, after 8 hours of Shimmer. And we were like using regular full volume voices like I use here, like Dave Prazak would use on regular commentary. And the hotel came to complain and threatened to throw us out. So if you watch, I believe it's the volume 2. If you watch that, you will notice that disc 2 is much quieter on commentary than disc 1. I was wondering if the same thing happened here with Steve Stack.
We mentioned when we think of Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich, we think of that last Battle of Atlanta show. That was in the free feed. You don't have to pay for that. You can go right now. How you're listening to this podcast right now, go back to season 1, episode 26. And there you can hear us recap last Battle of Atlanta, October of 1983, the culmination of this feud here in the summer of 83 that was raging on here in Texas. Sawyer misses a headbutt off the middle rope. Rich drops a fist off the middle rope to Sawyer's head. Both men trading shots. They're both biting each other. Lots of punches and brawling.
My favorite thing about Buzz Sawyer, other than everything, not as a person, but just as a character, he's just such a madman and like the most believable, insane, over the top pro wrestling style, is that underneath all that, he has some just really cool, unique execution of moves. Obviously, the power slam where he catches a guy out of midair in in a leapfrog attempt. But when he does his vertical suplex, and he does it here in this match, like the way he kicks his own legs as he's falling back, it looks exactly how Kensuke Sasaki would do it. And I often wonder, like, well, Buzz Sawyer did some trips to New Japan. Like, did a young lion, Kensuke Sasaki, pick this up from Buzz Sawyer on one of his tours? Because it's like the only two guys I've ever seen do a vertical suplex this way. Buzz Sawyer is like, I know I shouldn't love him, but I love Buzz Sawyer.
I like this version of Buzz Sawyer. I really didn't like the 89 WCW version of Buzz Sawyer. Like, this one's a lot easier to enjoy in the ring.
Oh, well,
that one was
broken down by 89. Yeah. Like, he took so many crazy bumps, and he couldn't be Buzz Sawyer in the ring in 1989, but he also couldn't be anything else. You know, a lot of times there's wrestlers who can adapt as their body breaks down, and there's wrestlers who can't. And yeah, no, I agree. Like, the idea of Buzz Sawyer and Buzz Sawyer being crazy on promos in 1989 was better than actually having to see him in the ring at that point.
Sawyer gets tied up in the ropes. Rich is punching him, and he shoves the referee out of the way. Sawyer finally gets free, and he punches the ref for no reason. And then we're told it's 10 minutes gone, which also made me laugh because of so much blood from Tommy Rich. And we're told it's a double disqualification, building to their no disqualification match coming up on the 4th of July.
They like doing double DQs and no finishes in this territory as they did many others. Again, this would have been much better with a better hard camera shot, maybe a ringside camera as well. But I enjoyed seeing them fight each other. This felt like a fight, what we saw of it. Like, it did not feel like a wrestling match. And how many times have we talked about how much we appreciate in 70s, 80s, even into the early 90s when like street fights or, this obviously had a DQ, but like fights like this, you don't need a bunch of weapons. You don't need glass. You don't need tacks. You don't need fire, as much as I don't mind those things from time to time. Like, it's just two guys who hate each other, punching and kicking and choking each other. I think the best example of that, which we talked about before, was the Tully Blanchard Magnum TA I Quit match that we reviewed several months back in the bonus feed, where like it's just a fight and it's a match where it could very much feel just as much like it's in a bar as it is in a wrestling ring.
The spoiler number 2. Okay, so we are back in the studio.
This cracked me up. How many shows have we seen a spoiler who is not the spoiler? We actually did have the real Don Jardine, the spoiler, a few weeks ago on this podcast, but we've had so many fake spoilers. Here. Southwest Championship Wrestling goes the extra mile and has a fake spoiler that is the spoiler number 2.
Number 2.
My notes say spoiler number 2 is very likely Evil Uno traveling back in time. That is what this man looks like physically.
And he is taking on Al Perez. So we are bookending our episode of Southwest Championship Wrestling with Al Perez.
That's when you know when the arrow is pointing straight up for a promotion.
Spoiler 2 jumps him before the bell. This match is shockingly more back and forth than you think it should be.
Well,
I thought this was an Al Perez. I thought it was a showcase or a squash for Perez.
It's his debut in the territory. It's supposed to it's just a weird match. Spoiler 2 gets a fair amount of offense. Al Perez gets a lot of offense too, and he's got fire. He's very athletic, but he is so green. The highlight of this is him missing a jumping elbow drop. Spoiler is flat on his back in the middle of the ring. Al Perez jumps high into the air to deliver an elbow drop. Spoiler does not move. He is stationary on the mat, and Perez somehow misjudged the distance and the location of Spoiler and flat out misses him. I have never in 40 plus years of watching professional wrestling seen something like this in a match.
The finish was also weird.
Very awkward.
Perez tries like a reverse roll up. Like, tough to describe this.
It's like it's like, this is a far more rudimentary version of it, but it's like the roll up that Zack Sabre Jr. will use, where like he's behind you, he jumps up, his like the top of his feet are hooked under your armpits, and then he falls back and bridges back. That is what Perez was going for, I think.
But it's way too close to the ropes. Like, it's insanely close. Like, it's hard for spoiler number 2 to not accidentally touch the ropes. Like, that's the most impressive part of this move is spoiler 2 pinning himself and not touching the ropes.
It is shoot ring generalship. In the sense of he found a way to not accidentally break up. Could you imagine if we would have had the earlier thing with Coco Samoa and the Masked Mauler and that controversial finish, and it was spoiler number 2, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if spoiler number 2 wasn't such a pro and he caused a controversial finish in Perez's debut match.
Yes, we could have been building to 2 masked jobbers, the Masked Mauler and spoiler number 2 having to settle the score after their big victories on
a mini tournament that leads to Masked Mauler and spoiler number 2, and they're about to wrestle and they decide, no, we are tag partners. We will go after the Southwest tag titles.
So not a great match, but yeah, very young Perez closes out the show in ring.
He looked like he had something. Like he had athleticism that jumped off the page. He was very enthusiastic. He had good fire. He just looked like he really had no idea what to do. It was so strange. Like, so he's the baby face here. He gets this win cleanly, but then he lightning speed bows to the floor like he cheated. It's just a very, very odd match and segment.
We close the show with Ann Gunkel from Global Championship Wrestling, which she was the owner of the Georgia territory. There's a long story about Ann Gunkel taking control of this territory. We don't have time to get into it on this episode, but go out of your way to investigate that, because I know Jim Cornette's talked about it. Dave Meltzer's written about it. There's a lot of good recaps on it. It's a fascinating story.
It's a shame that there wasn't a Tales from the Territories completely devoted to that. Could have even been, in a weird way, a Dark Side of the Ring.
So she's talking about her expansion and partnering with Southwest as they're coming to Georgia. They're doing a talent exchange here and coming here and trying to go out west as well, talking about going to Arizona and some other
California. They're talking about
moving out west.
Just like throwing out promotion names left and right that can't mean anything to anyone watching this show. Like, World Championship Wrestling in 1983, USA Network Wrestling, Global Wrestling. Like, if I'm watching Southwest, I'm like, just chill. Like, let me watch this. Stop Ring of Honoring my AEW.
So yeah, that's she's excited to be on the USA Network. She's excited that this show is on the USA Network.
She is enthusiastic. I don't know what else to say about her, but she is very enthusiastic.
And that's going to be a wrap on Southwest Championship Wrestling.
False. Bob Sweetan ends the show saying he will celebrate his birthday on July 4th by beating Sheep Herder Luke and Bobby Jaggers along with Sweet Brown Sugar to win the tag team titles.
That is correct. Silly me, I skipped over that line of Bob Sweetan's birthday. And that's your show. Real easy, casual watch. No big angles. A slow build to the July 4th arena show. Otherwise, not much to write home about. Do you have a favorite thing on this show?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, to me, this episode as a whole, like I could be wrong. I would have loved to have seen like actually when it was filmed and when it aired, but it almost felt like one of those weird episodes when like you've just had the arena show. And so you're showing the footage from that, which we have throughout this. But the stuff you taped was before the arena show. So you're not going to have any angles really, because that's, the angles aren't coming until after the arena show. So it's this weird, like, sort of caretaker episode to just kind of get you through to the next week. Um, can't really, honestly, I don't know. Like, there really isn't anything that stands out. I mean, anything that was bad was short, but there was nothing great. I think of like some of these random episodes where it's like, oh my God, Terry Funk is here. And like all of a sudden you have something to be excited about. There really wasn't anything like that. There were really no standout performances. I guess if I had to say anything, like the nice surprise of seeing, I don't know, 7-8 minutes of far away, lo-fi Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer beating each other bloody. That would probably be my favorite thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Worst thing on this show, I mean, for me, that Coco Samoa Matt Smaller match was horrendous.
Horrendous. And it was horrendous, but like, I appreciated that as bad as the body of the match was, there was a finish that was every bit as bad. Like the whole, the entire, like the finish, the match deserved to finish like that. And that's exactly what it got. I will say honorable mention for my favorite thing on the show. You mentioned it, the professionalism and ring generalship of spoiler number 2, making sure he did not reach the ropes when he was basically in the ropes.
Yeah. Overall, easy watch, fun show. Would this, we talked about it, I think the last time we talked about Southwest Championship Wrestling, would have been a totally fine territory. If this was my territory, I'd be watching wrestling and I'd be going to the arena in San Antonio as much as possible.
Yeah. I don't know that if I first stumbled upon this episode that it would have hooked me.
Not this episode, no.
It would not have turned me off from wrestling. But as a kid, if this was my territory, like this isn't an episode that would have me say, oh God, I'm just going to watch cartoons. I don't like wrestling anymore. Like it was fine. I would imagine.
Look at you, Central States.
Yes, exactly. This is not Kansas City where instead I end up becoming like a fan of roller derby or playing Dungeons and Dragons or something. Like this would have been totally fine.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up. We mentioned a bunch of our content here in the free feed. It's all evergreen content. You can go listen to Last Battle of Atlanta from season 1, and it's just as new as if it came out this week. So, and that's all free, all for you. 6 seasons worth, if you can believe it. So that's close to 100. We're gonna have 180 episodes by the end of this season in the free feed. We've got significantly more than that over in the bonus feed, over 200 episodes for $5. You can unlock 200 more bonus episodes over at patreon.com/wrestlingatrandom. You can even be the randomizer if you want to recommend a show for us to watch, a match, a TV show, a pay-per-view, even a movie. You can go over to
you have to bump yourself up to the $250 a month tier to recommend a movie. I've just unilaterally made this executive decision. That is not true. That's all available at the Be the Randomizer tier.
That's right. It's only $10 at that tier, and you can be the randomizer. Check it out if you haven't done so already. There's some free shows up there on the bonus feed as well. So if you want to try out a free, we've got sign up as a free member, and you can have access to a couple of episodes as a teaser to what you can see behind that paywall for $5 a month. And make sure that you are subscribed to the video version of this podcast over at youtube.com. Search for Wrestling at Random Podcast. Even if you don't consume your podcast via the video form, throwing us a like, a subscribe over there especially helps us work the algorithm so other wrestling fans can find the show. And if you do want to consume your podcast via the visual medium, over there is a great way to interact with us. We love to hear from the comments, and we always try to answer the comments back, so it's a great way to interact with the show. You can also interact with the show through all the social media platforms at Wrestle at Random. Anywhere social media is, you can find us, and we love to hear about your experiences with this territory. If you're listening to Last Battle of Atlanta from season 1, we want to hear about your thoughts. Go ahead and talk to us there. Hit us up on all the social media platforms at Wrestle at Random. And of course, WrestlingAtRandom.com has the entire back catalog, all the links I described. Everything's available for you over at the website. And with that, we're going to wrap it up and call it a podcast. Adam, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy. I won't say thank you, randomizer, but I also won't be cursing the randomizer under my breath. It's always good to get another territory here in the free feed that we never had before. And yeah, we'll see if that continues with next week's episode.
Yeah, they all can't be. The randomizer. When you pick a show at random, it may just be a nothing show sometimes.
Particularly when there's 60,000 hours of wrestling in the randomizer, it's you're not going to get like classic Mid-South 1984 every week.
No, but at least it wasn't as frustrating as when the randomizer will pick the week after an amazing show happened. This legendary thing happened last week. Now watch this week's episode.
Yeah, now watch this week's episode with like a Ron Bass promo and a long Ron Bass match in the same episode.
So make sure you tune in next week to see what the randomizer pulls for us again. So with that, now we're calling a podcast. Adam, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.